on February the 20th, 2023. If you would, please stand, and I'll ask Pastor Jeff to lead us in prayer, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Love to. Thank you. Father, we thank you so much for this incredible day that you have blessed us with. Us being here in these city council chambers is just a sign of the free America that we live in and are so grateful for. We ask that your direction and guidance would be with the council, all the decisions that they have to make. This sweetest town of America, Clewiston. We love you and praise you and thank you for so many of your blessings. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, do we have any additions or changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Commission, clerk sent out an advanced version of this. I don't know if everybody had time to see it, but it's regarding a FEMA state agreement for Hurricane Ian sub-recipient approval. The sooner we can act upon this, the quicker we get reimbursed. It's a standard form agreement. We did forward it to the city attorney, who I expect any time. And he had no issues with the going ahead with the approval if the commission is so inclined. We didn't want to wait another month. And you have copies at your place on that. So if we could add that as, I believe clerk added it as item 6A if you want to.
Okay, 6A. Okay, anything else? At this time, we'll have public comments. Anyone that would like to speak on any issue in the city, please state your name.
Jerry Cochran. For the last several weeks, I've been watching the new garbage trucks. Gentlemen and ladies, you all did a terrific job picking those trucks out. I don't hear them coming from 2 blocks away anymore. I don't hear them right from 3 blocks away. It's good to see that y'all are really stepping up and buying some fine equipment. Second thing is, today's President's Day. I don't know what the city's doing to honor that. Apparently nothing, and that's disappointing. Third thing is, I've been up here, this is my 3rd time to address parking of fifth wheels and trailers in driveways. I'd like the progress report, if anything has been done about the violation of the city ordinances, enforcement of it.
Okay. I've recommended I don't know if all the commission saw my report yet, but I've recommended a workshop on March the 6th, and my intention, if the commission agrees, is to add that to that workshop agenda to discuss.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Anyone else?
Randy,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mayor, that workshop's gonna be at 5 o'clock or 5:30?
Yes,
5 o'clock?
at 5 o'clock, if that's agreeable, if there's no objections from the commission, that's my recommendation, to have the next workshop then. And that would be one of the topics.
Okay. All right, we have the consent agenda before us. Everybody had a chance to look it over.
Move that we approve.
Second.
By Gardner, second by Highslope. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next we have a presentation to the sugarcane farmers for Sugarcane Farmers Appreciation Week. I know Mr. Michael's out there, so I'm going to read this, and then we'll come up and take a picture. But it's a proclamation for the Sugarcane Farmers Appreciation Week, whereas Florida sugarcane farmers are the nation's largest raw and refined cane sugar producers and make Clewiston America's sweetest town. And whereas the Florida sugarcane farmers are made up of men and women from every walk of life, who through their work ethic and love of the community are truly a mainstay to their agriculture regions and this great nation. And the Florida sugarcane farmers generate more than $4 billion in annual economic activity and are the leaders in technology and environmental stewardship, taking care of the land, air, water, and water resources in the state of Florida. And whereas the Florida sugarcane farmers have partnered in the Everglades restoration and reduced phosphorus leaving their farms by an average of 57% annually for more than 2 decades, more than double what is required of them. And the Florida sugarcane farmers provide approximately 50% of the cane sugar produced and 25% of all sugar produced in the United States. And the Florida sugarcane farmers have provided community gardens, daycare centers, playgrounds, libraries, civic and youth centers, swimming pools, scholarships, houses, and they continually contribute to other civic improvements and community programs. So thank you for that, sugarcane farmers. Whereas the Clewiston Sugar Festival has become a means to show community appreciation for our Florida sugarcane farmers. Now, therefore, we, the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, do hereby proclaim March 13th through 19th, 2023 as Sugarcane Farmers Appreciation Week and urge all citizens to express their appreciation to all aspects of our local sugarcane industry for the vital contributions that our farmers and industry make to the well-being of the state of Florida and the United States of America. This day before us, February 20th, 2023. So, Mr. Michael Ellis, if you would come forward.
Maybe come on up here and stand beside Jimmy and he can present it to you. It might be easier for us to take a
Thank you
picture
very
that
much.
way. No, thank you. We appreciate all that y'all do.
Hey, okay. It's not be careful, Danny. Workman's comp. Workman's comp.
It doesn't look too safe.
Ready? Everybody say cheese.
Sugar.
How sweet it is.
Thank you very much. We
Danny.
appreciate it.
Ryan needed a copy of that.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it without a good community.
You can send it to Kathy. Thank you, my man. Thank you, Michael.
All right, next on the agenda is Miss Levita Holmes, Glades Lives Matter Executive Director.
Good evening, everyone. Just like thank you for this opportunity to just briefly introduce myself and the organization that I serve. My name is Levita Holmes. I'm the new Executive Director for Glades Lives Matter. That position probably was inevitable for me, being that I've been on our founder and president, Janet Taylor. Some of you may know her, but I've been on her leadership. I've been on her leadership team since I was 4, probably before child labor laws were enforced. So I've worked alongside her for years and years. So this position was inevitable, and I'm really grateful for it. Glades Lives Matter is an organization. It's a grassroots advocacy organization, and we serve traditional glades, which is Pahokee, Belglade, South Bay, Moorhaven, and Clewiston. And we believe, just like I'm sure all of you do, that the people in the glades deserve special economic and social opportunities like everyone else. And so we also believe that the voice of the people in the glades needs to be heard, and that's where Glades Lives Matter come in. That's our calling. And right now we're currently engaged in a scholarship opportunity that we have been offering for years for the students in Pahokee High School, Glade Central High School, Clewiston High School, and we will be introducing it to Moorhaven High School. And what happens is that they have to submit an application explaining their experience in the Glades and why they appreciate living in the Glades, and they receive monetary compensation. It doesn't go to the school, it goes to them, and we take along with them their parents, their guidance counselors, to introduce them to legislative session in Tallahassee. We'll actually be going in March. We also invite the mayors. Sir Mayor, maybe you'll go with us this year. We also invite the mayors, and we take them for one day with their families to meet senators, congressmen, and just see what legislation is all about. It's been a tremendous success. And so we leave in March this year, so I'll be getting with you to see if you'd like to join us. And I'm just so grateful to be able to continue working alongside Janet She does a great job. And just like you, I look forward to working with you that we can prove that the Glades lives do matter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anvita. Thank you guys for the work you do. And I bet she kind of treats you like a mom too, doesn't she? All right. Well, next on the agenda is ordinance 23-01. It's a public hearing. It's the final reading of the ordinance that amends the Code of Ordinances 110-530, residential development and improvement, commercial development and improvement regarding storm shelters. Finally. If you recall, after the last meeting, we made a few tweaks, and if everyone's had a chance to look it over. The manager has any comments? Or
No
you do,
addition.
Debbie?
No, none on my part. I think only significant, you made a consensus selection of the version, that we gave you two versions, and this one was the consensus version, which made a provision for the audience to understand for long-term, short-term residents, out-of-town folks, to be able to have a pathway to be able to leave them up if they're going to be out for months.
All right, since this is a public hearing, the floor is open for any of the public to make any comments concerning this ordinance. Not seeing any movement. Commission, have any comments or discussion?
The shutters are to be left up on the back only, right?
Now,
Or
this
on
would
the
allow
whole
on
entire
the
house?
structure for the time periods allowed.
On the entire structure, if they meet the aesthetics and-
Requirements.
Mhm.
Further discussion?
Have we
Entertain.
had any comments at all from the public, Randy? Has
I
Debbie
haven't.
received
I
any?
don't know if Debbie had. Hadn't heard any pro-con. Well, I heard pro that we were changing the timetable. I did hear that. And of course, that was not an issue. It was expanded from 3 days essentially to 30. And I think that was the primary feedback I heard.
If there's no further discussion, I'll declare the public hearing closed and entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have a motion. Was that Highslope? Second by Gardner. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 3 is a resolution, 2023-010, a resolution that authorizes the mayor to sign the Small County Outreach Program Agreement with the State of Florida Department of Transportation to provide funding for the design, construction, and the CEI for the resurfacing of West Ventura from W.C. Owen to Dean Duff.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thompson, second by Highslope. Any further discussion?
I see Joe's coming up to the microphone. Yeah, I have a question, and maybe more for Randy and actually Joe, but what time frame are we looking at for this whole
Okay.
process?
This actual document, once approved, will engage the engineer to do the design. Excuse me. One other significant aspect of that section of street is we also received federal funding to supplement the project. As you recall, in the other project we did further east on Ventura, we were limited to just the rules of the DOT in terms of what we could use the money for. It was primarily resurfacing, drainage, things of that nature. This gives us the opportunity with the federal funds to enhance this section of what some folks refer to as downtown, to improve the sidewalks, the lighting, the drainage, also, and of course, resurfacing, with these funds that you're acting on tonight being associated just with the resurfacing primarily. And then the other funds can be used to redo the parking spaces, do landscaping, a number of other things that are more appropriate for this section of the city. So we'll be combining those projects. We'll have a supplemental agreement coming later from the federal government for that block of funds, which is almost $1 million. So the total for the two is about $1.9 million, almost $1.8 million. So for this, I say that because that obviously will impact the timing. We have to bring to you and get your approval for the design of the whole section. And the resurfacing element would be one portion of that project. And of course, the key is we'll move forward with the design as soon as you do this. Construction, I would guess at least a year probably to get design approval, get any other input you want from the local businesses. The property owners in the affected area may have some input, and then come back to the commission for final approval. Then we'll bid it and go through the same process we did on the construction for the East Ventura. So, Joe, do you have a good feel? 12 to 18 months for that whole process, I think, is a gracious plenty, but
approximately, yes, sir. That is
Okay.
correct, especially once we actually do engage the community and the elected officials, like exactly what sort of vision they have for this portion of Ventura getting redone.
And I'll remind you that we did get some good feedback from the public and the DOT when we did the vision plan for Highway 70. It included a block or so in this direction and included potential alignments and the design for this section of Ventura. Because one of the key things will be pedestrian crossings, all the things associated with that. Where should they be? Only at intersections, only at stoplighted intersections. We'll only have one, so that will be something we'll have to look at. And then the other part of it will be that they looked at is, do we do a realignment of the lanes? Currently, it has a center turn lane. Can't see it because the lines are pretty much worn out, but there's a center turn lane and 2 lanes. We have flexibility to do something different. And one of the options that the vision plan, without getting too deep into that discussion tonight, had was just a 2-lane version for the through traffic, and then either turn spots or a narrower street with more parking flexibility and so forth. So we'll bring that to you, and you'll have plenty of time to decide how we're going to play that.
And that visioning from the DOT for the Highway 27, I know that they looked at Ventura. Can you send those to us again?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that just to refresh our memories, and I know that we have one new commissioner that might not have seen it.
Yeah, and yes, ma'am, and we'll likely have a workshop at least on it pretty early on to talk about all those things, because it's a lot going to be going on through here, and it impacts on city properties. We have 3 buildings in that section, and other criteria that'll be important. The lighting is going to be a significant change, and to the better, in my opinion, because we'll use the same design you picked for the bridge for all the downtown area. That'll likely have a up and a low for pedestrian as well as the vehicle traffic and banners, all of those kind of considerations. But we'll resend that and the other information. Of course, the first action will probably come back to go ahead and enter into a contract on the engineering and get rolling.
All right. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, resolution 2023-11. Approve ZEP Construction, Inc. for a change order number 2 in the total amount of $84,574 for additional construction related to services to hoist equipment and material with the crane across the C-21 canal, the new bridge project. Randy, you can, I think you filled us in on what's happening. So
Yes, I'm trying to keep the board informed on the discussions we've had with the parties. In particular, this is impacted by the South Florida Water Management district, and of course with the contractor and with the engineers involved. It's, in my assessment, short and quick, it's the lesser of the evils in terms of anything that costs additional is always troublesome after you start a project. But fortunately, we have sufficient funds unencumbered within the grant funds we were awarded for the project that are eligible for this, and FDOT has opined that they approve it, they understand the reasoning for it. It's the alternatives, we considered several alternatives, another temporary crossing. We considered going for a permit to get across the S-169, which has been deemed to be in condition that the state wants to limit our construction traffic, although they have not chosen to limit any other vehicular crossings. To some degree, that's a good thing because that's allowed citizens and others to keep using that S-169. Of course, the whole purpose of this bridge is to replace it and eliminate it, so we don't want to spend a lot of money fixing up a S-169 that's going to be gone in a year. So that was a more expensive option. The temporary bridge crossing was a more expensive option. I don't want to beat it too long, but the ideal to me would have been if we had had the opportunity, this issue had been raised timely, that after we got our permit from the state, we thought we were good to go from, I say the state, from the Water Management District, with all issues resolved. But unfortunately, by the time we were informed of this issue and that we had to have a supplemental, I'll call it an extra permit approval by the district for the contractor to use the S-169, the long and the short of it was the Corps had just authorized their contractor to take out the temporary crossing they had to build. So had we known in time, and of course that's water literally under the crossing, we could have avoided this. But the other part of the lesser of the evils, any other option, including seeking that temporary permit for approval to use it, was going to delay the project more than this will impact it. Because at this point, we don't have to have any other permits. It's just the extra cost of hoisting and lifting the materials and equipment across as necessary to do the work that's required on the opposite side of the canal. I'll be glad to answer any questions. I'll defer to Joe if I left anything out or misstated anything, but
Did fantastic.
I've been told that the current crossing's been in pretty scary shape for a while.
that was one of the things, if we had evaluated it, which is required for this extra permit, we already had a price, it's over $20,000 we would have invested. We would have gotten the same answer they've already gotten at least twice. The reason that the Corps had to put in a temporary crossing was it was deemed not adequate for further use. That's why we're building a bridge. One of the reasons is it needs to be replaced. So we would have either spent the money for the engineering and then got a no answer and then had to revert to this and waited 2 to 3 months possibly, or we do bite our tongue and go forward. And I will say this publicly, but it's almost like a double standard because we saw equipment have evidence of equipment crossing that's owned by South Florida Water Management that's heavier than anything we're going to put over there within the last few weeks. And apparently that did not warrant any kind of approval, or it was done without it. Don't know. But we can fight the battle, put our contract in jeopardy, and delay it, of course, or use the state money that was paid for this to satisfy the issue and avoid any kind of catastrophe. Because if something happened to that bridge, then everybody couldn't cross, including the boaters, the pedestrians, the citizens going to the other side to use the recreation area. So it's the lesser of the potential evils.
Extension of time may end up costing us more money in the end.
Oh, it certainly would, in my opinion, on a almost $5 million contract. You add time, you're going to add money.
Randy, by taking this across there, hoisting it across, that's not going to create any issues?
No, because it's not a passable waterway currently, and so there's nothing They have to do their safety protocols, and the Water Management District assured us that there was no additional permitting needed to do that. It's part of the project that was previously approved, using the crane that's already there.
Did we get anything in writing from the Water Management District on this?
Joe, you want to respond?
As far as their concurrence with allowing us to actually use the existing permit to
Well, no,
hoist?
just not allowing us to use the S-1 system.
Oh, yes. We got a picture of one of our pieces of equipment on the other side that told us to cease and desist.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right.
They don't have to mobilize any further equipment.
No.
It's all there.
What's
Yeah.
not there will be hoisted
Mhm.
now.
Yeah, it's available to the site.
All right, any further discussion? Motion and second,
So moved.
moved by Highslope,
Go ahead.
second by Thompson, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
If I had a vote, I'd be tempted, but no, I won't. No seriousness. Okay.
Well,
Thank you,
we
Joe.
Have the money for it, so. it's
Yeah,
already-
thank
it's in the
goodness.
grant, so that's
Yeah,
the
thank
good
goodness
part.
it's not an issue on the
Yeah, but it might
funding.
leave us short on something else that we wanted to do on the
That's
crossing.
what we hope.
Project.
All right, item number 5 is Resolution 2023-12, a resolution that approves Denco Construction, change order number 2, and authorizes the use of pay item number 1 through 19 and 3 through 9 owner-directed work allowance to reimburse the contractor for additional construction related to the septic to sewer project that came from the Coors property across over into our sewer system. Manager has any discussion on that?
Just that this is the opposite in terms of the degree of cooperation and support. I couldn't be more pleased with all parties involved in terms of the contractor we had for this project, which is nearing completion. Joe can give you an update on the status, but the cooperation from the Corps. It is their money. They funded it. And my only concern was that they were okay with this change order, which they have the funding in the allowances, as I understand it, to do a better job by milling and resurfacing the paved areas rather than just capping them with asphalt because they determined it needed more work.
So to summarize this, Joe, they're utilizing our contractors, but they're reimbursing or paying them.
Well, it's part of the money that they already have funded and gave the city to pay for it. It's within the allowances, as I understand it.
Yes, that is correct. So the contract amount does not change. We're just dipping into those discretionary funds of the allowance or contingency monies.
And we felt the commission should opine to that aspect. And Joe, you want to give them an update on this project? I know we're near ending, and they're interested, shared with the board, in doing a ribbon cutting if we're interested in participating, which I'm certainly positive about. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. I talked to the EOR at the end of last week. Denco has been systematically tying in some new connections and eliminating some of the septic tanks. And we just have this one and I think one other one left to go if I'm not mistaken. And unfortunately, this septic tank in question was actually located underneath an existing concrete pad, so you can't cave that in without other repercussions. So the contractor Denco is just going to fill that one. And then as far as the milling and resurfacing, Mr. Martin was correct. Basically, we're just going to be having a much better, longer lasting product to make sure that that existing asphalt is actually overlaid properly and there's a better adhesion for the newer asphalt to mend or mate with the old. So that's basically it in a nutshell. And they already did a substantial completion walkthrough, and we just have a few of those restoration items as well as just last couple connections.
Some of those septic tanks have probably been there since the 30s.
That's quite possible, actually, looking at some of the dates.
And given their location near the public water and the lake, this is quite an environmental enhancement to the area, avoiding any kind of issue there. And as Mayor said at the U.S. Army's dedication of the dike improvements under budget, on time. Under time. This one's actually considerably ahead of schedule.
Both of them are rarity.
Of course, 2-0.
When you were talking about asphalt, Joe, where were we specifically talking about the asphalt? On the
Oh, just on the Coors property of where they had installed the new gravity line to the new lift station. That's more central in relevance to their property. So there's just not all asphalt is getting redone. It's just the affected areas.
For discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
That second.
Thompson, motion. Edmund, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The reason why I asked about asphalt, Randy, when we went out to that ribbon cutting, that roadway is really in bad shape. And I'm not sure if it's a county road or if it's a Corps of Engineers road.
It is in bad shape. I'm not sure, but it's obviously not in the city, but it's, do you know, Danny?
Yeah.
After that gate's federal.
Take care of that with the contractor. That's the Army Corps road.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
that's definitely part of the trucks. They're still up and down the road.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, item number 6, resolution 2023-013, a resolution that approves the ranking of the selection committee and authorizes the negotiation of contracts with the selected companies for disaster debris monitoring services. If I remember right, the manager said this comes up for renewal every so many years.
Mm-hmm. And we just used Thompson, the recommended firm by the countywide committee that I served on to select. We just used them in the most recent storm, Hurricane Ian, and they did a good job of the monitoring services there, compliant with FEMA as far as we know. And they were the selected primary firm. The secondary is Tetra Tech, an engineering firm that we have under contract with or under our approved engineering firms, and they would be the backup. The county, LaBelle, and Clewiston all have agreed that this would be the pecking order, and that's why we would all, and that worked out really nicely in this last hurricane, having the same firm doing all the entities, the collection and the monitoring. Made it much simpler, particularly when we shared the site that the counties allowed us to use at the airport to dispose of the yard waste. It really worked out well to have one firm.
Working together may have worked out, but as far as picking up on our community, couldn't win any worse in my view. The prime contractor attempted to sub it out to locals. Locals wouldn't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting paid maybe 25% or less than we were paying the sub. The sub didn't mobilize anything. Matter of fact, I believe our director of public works, they were using him to call locals to try to get them to work. And what showed up was mom and pops with a bobcat and a trailer.
But now that's the collection. That's a different contract. This one's just the monitoring. And we will bid that again, have new RFPs sometime in the next couple of years. I'm not, whenever that term runs out. And we have alternatives there. We have a first place, a second place, and a third place if the county and the cities chose to go down the pecking order, we could. But that one is not up for renewal this year, but it will be within the next 2 years. I'm not sure how many more years.
I think we need to consider.
Yeah, it was D&G.
For the range of miles, for local contractors to bid that to, not Alabama or Mississippi.
Well, the locals didn't apply, none of them, because the biggest problem with that, and I ran into this in other states, is you have to be pre-certified by FEMA in terms of what you can bring to the table, and you have to agree to their rate structures, and small local contractors typically don't pursue it.
And sometimes it's in the scope too, if you include monitoring, storage, all this together. no local contractor is capable of doing that.
Yeah, and that's the reason we break out the monitoring. It's just the collection and disposal. And disposal can be an issue depending on the scale. In this particular storm, as you all are aware, we only had to deal with yard waste and vegetative debris primarily. If you have a lot of construction debris, that really complicates things because disposal is usually not at your nearest landfill. It's wherever you can get it. And so then you have different kinds of pickups, different schedule, and a long drawn-out affair. Our neighbors to the east or west have been experiencing a lot of issues related to that. They're still working on collecting debris that this many months after the storm. So no question, scale has a lot to do with it. But the county and the city did inquire during the review process for those contracts as well. The use of local contractors, because we did that a year or so ago, and there is some requirements on that. But
You have to define what local is. Local is a general term. Local could be
yeah, well,
600 miles.
I think these were local in terms of within the county, if I remember correctly, that were interested. And of course, then they negotiate between themselves. But
I think we were paying a little over $20 a yard, and the contractor was getting paid $5. They were working for free.
Yeah, I heard some of the same concerns. But the way it's structured to get reimbursed, you have to have a contractor that goes through that FEMA process in the lead. But good points well taken for when that comes back up for the next review cycle for the actual collection services.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve resolution number 2023-013.
Second.
Okay, motion by Gardner, second by Thompson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, agenda item 6A was added. We should have a packet here. Randy, you briefly explained it, but if you'll go over that one more time. And
Okay, Sherry is our contact lead person, and she's had more direct contact with several of us have initially, but she's been our on the spot bird dog in this. And her goal, of course, is all our goal is try to get us reimbursed fully and as fast as possible, because sometimes these reimbursements have gone on for years, and they have made some tweaks to the process. But it's an evolving process. No matter what they do, they're constantly changing it. And I'll let Sherry comment on this if she would come up, since she's taking the lead on it. But at this point, we need to expedite approval of this agreement to get qualified for the reimbursements we already have favorable review from, which is primarily what we were just discussing, our debris contracts, which is a big ticket item for us. She can give you the totals on that. But Sherry, you want to give them an update on this?
Yes, in a nutshell, Sherry Howell Finance. In a nutshell, this agreement is an umbrella for all of the FEMA assistance that we'll be getting for Hurricane Ian. So without it in place to begin with, we can't get any assistance until it is executed and in place. And it has evolved from prior processes. In the past, you'd have to have a project, which would be like debris clearing or something of that nature, and you'd have to have a grant, an amount that would be dedicated to that expense or project. And that's not the case now. It's my understanding that we just need to get this in place, and then as the federal people award the projects, they put a cost to them, then they're automatically approved with this agreement. That's how it was explained to me earlier today. Now, I'm not real sure about the allocation when you get into, okay, well, how much is going to be funded from the federal versus state, because some of the damages that we have are the projects with hurricanes or disasters. They have a cost allocation for how much the federal government will pay versus how much our local government. So I am in the process of circling back and making sure, hey, is this going to be the only agreement that we have? The answer so far is yes. But right now, as far as our projects are concerned, I keep saying projects because that's the damages. We're still working with the federal people. That's how it starts off. And then once they finish, it all gets uploaded. All of the information gets uploaded, and then they share the portal, so to speak. But the state ultimately, they handle the funds, and they are responsible for giving them for refunding or dispersing them to the city. So Wednesday, when we got this, we wanted, the whole reason to expedite it is we're going to be meeting with FEMA Wednesday, and the debris is a big expense for us with Ian. And so we feel confident that we're ready to go, that we have everything. We have roughly $145,000 that we've spent. And it's my understanding, and I believe Mr. Martin's as well, that that's going to be 100% federally funded. And there's some type of fast track that you can do to expedite getting those funds. So I didn't want anything to be in the way of perhaps getting that. The goal is to try to get that reimbursed as quickly as possible.
I just have a question, Dylan. Have you had a chance to review it?
I have.
And no issues at all? Okay, standard agreement.
Pretty standard grant deal. If you receive money from them, you agree not to hold them responsible in the event something goes wrong with some of the work you perform. As Sherry already stated, it's sort of seems to be a deal. If you want money, you've got to sign their agreement.
Any further questions on resolution 2023-014?
Move that we approve. Second.
Motion by Gardner, second by Highslope. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for accommodating us and putting that on the agenda.
Okay, we have old business up next. We don't have any questions on what's on the old business?
Randy, you're going to have an agenda for us for that. I know it's not for the March 6th. I know
Yes,
you
ma'am.
said that's
Yeah.
Okay, monthly activity reports. Any comments or questions?
Danny, can you give us an update on the swimming pool and the flagpole, please?
On the flagpole, right now, we're just waiting on the contractor. I reached out to one of the individuals today. I haven't heard back, but hopefully this week we'll set the pole. That's where we are. Last week we started on the pool. They're ripping out the tile and resurfacing already some of the areas, but they're making quite a bit of progress. They're doing quite well. There's some things they want to make some changes already, but here again, that's normal in construction. As they work through things, they're finding things, some issues. So.
You believe it'll be finished by the time school's out?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Yeah. The way he's moving right now, yeah, I agree.
And we've got a few things we have to do too. I know
Yeah,
you're
we're
working on
going to do
those.
some of the stuff in-house, trying to save some money. There's some things we can do. Again, tying in the splash pad. One of the individuals that works with us actually installed the pad, I found out. So he knows a lot about the splash pad. So we're going to work on it.
But that's going to be big, to be able to
Big savings.
Save that water.
We didn't know we were going to need it this early with the heat today.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I have a question for Danny. Are you finished, Greg? Okay. Can you update us on the parks and the new equipment and stuff that we've ordered?
I guess Lauren's working on the equipment right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we're ready to order the equipment for the smaller park replacements and the Trinidad. We had a hard time getting enough bids, and we didn't get but two, and we finally got it. And she just talked to me today, so I think we're ready to finalize that real close.
What kind of time frame are we looking at on equipment? I mean, it seems to me like we've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah, it's hard to get companies to bid, amazingly, on recreation equipment. At the last conference last year I was at, there were 10 companies there begging.
Yeah.
And when we try to get them priced, they're either outrageous or they can't give you a reasonable response time, or they're just not interested. But according to Lauren, the company that we're pursuing to get this, the latest one that was being used with the grant funding and the donations, I think they gave her like 60 to 90 days delivery. But we did get a second bid that came in late, but in the process. But that's for fewer pieces and slightly cheaper, but for fewer pieces. So we're going to go for the most bang for our buck. It's slightly over our budget, but we're looking at ways we can get back within the budget. So I'm hopeful we'll have finalized and do the order within a few days.
All right.
Mayor, on the departmental updates too, I just wanted to note the golf courses numbers were up pretty well over what we've seen the last couple of years, which is good news. And also on their social media page today was, I guess, a blogger came out and golfed and blogged some really nice reviews.
Yeah,
so that's linked on Facebook if you guys want to check that out.
That was really nice.
Yeah, you saw that. It was good.
It's an acclaimed person apparently that does this at golf courses, and unannounced, and was very favorable.
They came from Naples because the cost, they're visiting someone in Naples is the way it read, but the cost of golfing on the coast was too high. So they came inland to golf and had very positive things to say.
Great.
I do have a comment on the monthly activity reports. I know, Randy, I brought this up several times, but once again, we have a dead person pulling permits.
Yeah.
You know, and August 1st at our budget workshop, we were going to have something was going to be worked out, that we were going to be looking at the county. You know, where are we on the process? I mean, to me, with Florida being in the sunshine, that we have to have accurate records and that we share with the public what exactly is going on. Dead people pulling permits is just not, I think, acceptable.
Yeah, and it's tied, as Travis had alluded to then, it's tied to the county tax records, and if people don't change those,
The tax records are correct. It's our system that's incorrect, and the staff.
Well, they're tied to whoever it was at the time. I guess they got the permit or whatever. But I'll follow back up with them and see where we're at with that. We were looking at solutions.
Our property records are correct. The Hendry County property records are correct.
None of them show a deceased person still titled.
No, they're the new owners are on that property. Our records.
If they sell it, but if it's still in an estate or whatever, they.
No, I'm talking about people who've died and the property's been changed hand a couple of times.
Oh, okay.
And this has been ongoing. Now, I think what the issue is that our system,
yeah,
is maybe an obsolete system.
No doubt.
But the time to look up who actually owns the property and how the permit's issued, I think should be the responsibility of the city to make sure that we're issuing a permit to the current owner of the property.
I'll follow up
This
with
has
them.
been going on for a long time.
You don't have to provide an ID to pull a permit.
Well,
I don't know how
it's who you write the permit to.
they're writing it to dead people and not the person in front of them.
Because that's the owner of record
You're not
of
allowed
our
to pull a
system.
permit for someone else, right? You have to be the
No, the
individual.
contractor can
Yeah,
pull it for
contractors
you.
do it.
But they have to pull it for the owner that's currently in it. But
The
we're
issue is
pulling-
it's still in their name.
The issue is still the dead person's
deceased.
name.
our records need to be.
Well, something, I think that they were trying to marry the records up or do something new. But again, I just saw this month
That
another
doesn't
dead
even-
person.
Yeah, but I don't see how that could even happen. Because if someone comes in for a permit, even if it's a contractor and they say, I want a permit for this address, why would we have an antiquated record instead of clicking on the property appraiser's website right then and there?
I'll get Travis to do something to explain it. I know he mentioned that workshop.
Our records are that outdated, they should get rid of them tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will
Just use their website.
I'll follow up with
information.
get an update from them because I haven't looked at the technical issues, but I do know that they have blamed it on our software.
We talked about it back in August, and
Yep.
it was going to be a process to get it up to date. but we're
think it was
still here
costly,
this
too.
month.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I agree what you just said.
Oh,
All you have to do is look at the property appraiser's office
Takes
and
30
it gives you
seconds
the
to
real
double check it.
person's name that owns the property,
Well,
not the dead person's name.
I'll
Right.
get them an up-to-date explanation of where we're at and what we're going to do to fix it.
Kathy, does Code have a tool for that?
Yeah, it's the permitting software is what I understand that we're using.
I understood that on the permitting process, when we bought the, whatever that was, we bought several years, many years ago now, that there was a permitting process on, component on there. I thought we had purchased it, maybe we didn't. Sherry, do you remember?
It was considered a step behind it. Current system was
Over whatever, what's the company's name that we use? Tyler.
package.
Okay.
deal.
But we're using Tyler for our software, aren't we, for our AMI program?
Yes.
So it is definitely up to date. Okay, Randy, maybe you can look into that, see why we're using it for real stuff right now, and we're still using an antiquated system.
I'll put some more time on it.
Thank you.
Get you an answer. Thank you.
All right, any other comments on departmental activity reports? If not, we'll go to the city manager.
I mentioned this in my update to the commission. We today got a copy of the FMPA report. Is Lynn still here? She was here earlier. Yeah, she is. Lynn did a really great job with this. Could you come up, Lynn, and just make a quick comment off the cuff on the process? FMPA worked very collaboratively with us on this. There's pictures of Lynn and one of our local business persons who is also a county commissioner. I'm not going to take credit for him being on the cover, but Mr. Iglesias. But it's a really good, well done, and it featured Clewiston. And if you want to give them a little background on it, I've mentioned it to the board, but for the publics. And I don't get credit for the picture. I love the ones of our staff doing the work. City manager stuck in there one place, but other than that, it's pretty well done. I'll just pass it by. We're going to get you copies of it from them, so you'll have a hard copy.
Copies coming, yeah.
They're in our packet.
Yeah, I think they're in there.
Oh, they're already in there? Okay. Well, anyway,
Got-
be sure to take a look at it.
We've got 5 more
sealed.
coming.
Okay, all right.
It's really well done, but I just want to make you aware because I'd mentioned it was happening, but Lynn coordinated, and congratulations to her on doing a really good job to get Clewiston featured.
Well, thank you. I'm not sure that I really did anything, but
Well, they asked us, so somebody had to be responsible.
yeah, Ryan Dumas is their PR person, and he came out here a couple years ago to take some pictures of our substation and for their annual report then. And
Is
they
that it?
thought of Clewiston for
Yeah.
this year, but I guess every year they feature a different city, and this year they
Okay.
wanted to do
I know that.
Clewiston.
Is that in the PDF format? I mean, can that go on our website or?
I would think so. We got a
Social
draft
media?
of it to.
Because I think it's important to showcase it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure
Nice.
that with us.
Yeah, because the public wouldn't normally get to see that unless they go on their website. So I think it's a great idea to put it on ours, link it somehow. But
Anything else, Randy?
that's all I had for tonight. I'll defer to the attorney. I think he's got an update for you.
Attorney Brandenburg?
I have an update for you guys on some recent case law that affects all municipalities within Florida. This is a case that had our eyes on for the last year or so, and it involves public notice requirements. So as you all know, in order to adopt an ordinance, it must be read in full on at least 2 separate occasions and published in a newspaper at least 10 days prior to its adoption. For whatever reason, a lot of times an ordinance might be delayed upon its second reading if we're waiting for additional backup, or if the commission decides that it needs some extra drafting work for whatever reason. Sometimes an ordinance won't be passed on its second reading and will be delayed to a subsequent meeting. For a long time, the long-standing practice was as long as the initial notice requirements were met, you didn't have to subsequently re-advertise the postponed item. That's exactly what happened with the town of Jupiter. They were waiting on some exhibits for an ordinance they were attempting to pass. Someone made a motion to postpone it to the next commission meeting. It was passed, no issues. 2 years later, a resident filed suit against them. Apparently, he went back through the records, found out that it wasn't advertised in a newspaper, the subsequent postponement, and unfortunately right now they are locked in litigation, and a recent appeal decision found that they were in violation of the notice statute. It's now being sent back to trial court to be litigated on Jupiter Island's defenses. But as of right now, after this recent appeal decision, if for whatever reason a ordinance is not passed on its second reading, the city should be aware and staff should be aware that it will then have to be re-advertised in a newspaper with the specific date of the postponed hearing. Something to be aware of.
Okay.
Bill, I know there were some changes also of using newspapers, posting public meetings. Is it something that I know you think you briefed us on that in the past? Does it still have to be in the newspaper, or could it be social media?
It still has to be in the newspaper. There has been an ongoing saga over the last 2 cycles of attempting to do something to modernize the notice requirements. I think it was 2 years ago they passed this pretty comprehensive legislation that would have allowed for an online notice system. It was then repealed the subsequent year. I heard rumors that there may be something coming down the line where that might be coming back again. They might be trying to do it again, bring back the possibility of sort of a centralized online notice. I've heard, at least in some areas, that it could be spearheaded by the county, and then any municipality within the county could then utilize their system to provide the requisite notice. But as of today, we're still old school.
Okay.
Old school newspaper and snail mail.
Old school newspaper and snail mail.
That's funny.
Okay. Comments by the commission? Commissioner Edmonds?
I think I have something I'd like to bring up. I had a couple of people approach me about renting the John Boy Auditorium, and that they were unhappy. And I'd like to address that, I guess, if we can, at the workshop.
Yeah, I also had a call. Might have been from the same person. I don't know, but I mentioned it to Randy today because I was out of town when he called me. But yeah, I think it's something that we could probably address at the workshop. Just an unhappy renter. It wasn't. The event still went on.
It looks like we might have all gotten the calls, but I think that, Randy, the concern that I have is that local not-for-profits and them fundraising and just not having the time that they usually have had. So I think we need to look at it, and the workshop, I think, would be a good place to talk about it.
Yeah, if I could respond, Mayor mentioned it to me earlier today, and I've already looked at it, and I think we can address the concern they have. The issue is some of the history. We had some people, I don't want to say abusing it, but for various reasons, like nonprofits where they're volunteers, wanting to have longer time period to clean up afterwards rather than that night of, and then likewise prior to getting access at more convenient times. Of course, one of the biggest issues we had to deal with was reeling in, I don't want to be critical, but lax use of the facility previously, where people had keys and were going and coming and doing whatever. Well, we've pretty much nipped that in the bud, and now we have to have a staff person there for liability reasons and security and control of the facility, and we pay them. And sometimes these extended hours kick in overtime. So I think the way we'll have to do it, and we can give you a couple of examples. We've only had a few that we've had any issue with, and 3, in fact, thus far. But we dealt with the other 2, but this most recent event, I think what we'll have to do is just tell them, all right, if you want these extra hours, we're going to have to charge you what it costs us to pay these staff people to be there, and give them the flexibility. As long as the other problem we had is people were taking this long block of time and preventing us from renting it to another person, and it impacted associated events. We had that like on a Friday night event and a Saturday. So if we want to maximize the use of the facility, which I recommend, and keep the peace among the renters, is we've got to have some reasonable time frame. So and if it's not backed up against another event like a Sunday, then that's fine, but there will be an additional cost associated to resolve that to whoever, for our staff person to be there and while they do the cleanup in a more convenient time. So
I don't think that's unreasonable, though.
I don't either, and I think that's something we can tweak because this is a work in progress, as we knew, because we did change a lot of rules and regulations and pricing and so forth. But I think that's a reasonable compromise with the most recent incident where we got that feedback, and also take into consideration if it's a local group with local ties that's been doing it for years, and particularly nonprofit groups, take that in consideration, give them some discretion, but we still can't be handing out keys, and we had to reblock all of them because keys were copied and we had no control, and people were going in without telling us and doing stuff, and that's not a good situation in a building that valuable and that nice. We need to take care of it, and particularly since we're going to be seeking funding to upgrade it in the coming year or so, I think it's incumbent on us to protect the public's property by having reasonable rules and charging reasonable prices. And
I think we should do that on a limited basis, though, for like local nonprofits, not just.
Well, we're not going to abuse it, but if there's another event that's rented, that's not something we have much flexibility. But if we can work with them on a Sunday, particularly when we don't have a lot of events, to give them more time and charge them, what it costs us for that staff person to be there. Sometimes that kicks in overtime, so that's a challenge. But if we can work with them, we want to. We want to keep the peace, but at the same time, we can't have one group taking advantage of things just because they've always been allowed to, and other groups being held to a higher standard. We want to be equitable
I
and
think
fair.
that, for local nonprofits, we need to hold them all to the same standard. We can't
Exactly.
do one for one nonprofit,
Exactly.
and not for another nonprofit.
And apparently that's happened in the past, and that caused some real hard feelings.
But I would differentiate for it between individuals and nonprofits.
No doubt.
me
This
too.
is
That's why I
local.
say limited
Right.
to nonprofit, local nonprofits.
Yeah.
We got almost a 30-year relationship with this group,
Mhm. And we
I
want
think
them to keep using it. They do a good job and do a good cleanup. It's just they like that flexibility, and I understand why, and because there are volunteers. And it won't be the last time something like that, a conflict occurs. We had one with a fishing tournament and another tenant that was pretty cramped up, but we try to manage that in the setting up the original without limiting the use of the facility. So hopefully we can handle it, but I'll be glad to give you a follow-up briefing at the workshop. Thank you, Ms. Evans.
All right, anything else? Commissioner Haslett?
Just one quick question regarding youth summer camp. I spoke with Lauren this week, or this past week rather, and she said we are going with the YMCA again.
Yes, we had hoped to have in place our own plan for the
Right.
coming season, but we really don't believe we can get that accomplished. So we'll be recommending.
Well, that and with the opening of the pool.
Yeah, we wanted to get all of that taken care of, but we will be recommending a contract with the Y one more year, and then our intent is to have in place a system where we can do it ourselves.
Well, I
going
know
forward.
I've had some parents call me because the Y is open for registration in other communities, and it's not.
Well,
Like, we're not listed.
We hopefully will have it on your next agenda for action.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up.
And I'll just echo on to that. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. We were way behind the ball getting people registered, and I want to say we even had to cancel because we didn't sign them up in time. Don't quote me on any of that, but I agree. We need to get it advertised quickly. I mean, it's already almost March 1st, and parents need to make plans. So
Well, and I had it on my my list to bring up because I've had several parents and grandparents ask me for the dates as they plan their vacations, and I know that there's going to be vacation Bible schools as well, and so I think we need to get a date out as soon as possible.
Okay.
Because I've had them approach me as this.
I don't
past
think
week.
the date will really change. That similar to what we did last year. It was the only issue was who was going to manage it, whether we did it in house or.
But we need to get the dates out there. I think.
Okay.
Because I mean, it could be the first week in June or first 2 weeks in June. I don't know.
Well, it's when school's out or
Yeah,
near
it'll be
there.
like the whole summer, basically.
Pretty much early June or whenever close to when school gets out until the first week of August. I think that's pretty standard.
I think parents just are getting a little nervous that maybe space might be limited if we went to a locally run, program. So they just want to make sure that they get their kids signed up.
Well, this year it'll be the Y.
Yeah.
That's the only game we got.
Okay.
But the pool will be open.
That's the good
That'll make a
news.
difference.
You're not going anywhere. We have to go over and do it ourselves. We'll get it done.
anything else?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Gardner.
All right. Well, I've already brought up the Dead People Summer Camp and the workshop for March the 6th. So look forward to seeing that agenda. That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Thompson.
Nearly 2 years ago, I brought up getting a new personnel policy for the employees, and we haven't done so yet. The one we have, I read through it, it leaves us vulnerable in some areas, and it's going on 20 years old, and I think it'd be prudent for us to get on this to get a new handbook. And since I did ask 2 years ago and it happened yet, I'd like to put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, we have a motion to expedite.
And have something brought back to the commission by May.
Ooh.
That'll mean final. It just means something to look at.
Uh,
And just to reiterate, you don't have to rewrite a handbook. It's
But
out
it
there.
needs to be rewritten.
Other cities, Florida League of Cities has a list of cities that recently did it.
Yeah, that's what we was going to get the league to assist with it. And of
You
course,
address our issues, you pick and choose, you put your book together. It don't require pay an attorney to write it.
May
You
I
just have
ask
to look over
what some of the concerns are?
it.
In all seriousness.
Well, if you want me to bring it up, yeah, we had reportedly had a director in a relationship with a direct report, and there's nothing in there that prohibits that, and it left the city severely vulnerable to litigation.
I remember.
That's just one thing.
We talked about social media use. And it didn't
Yeah.
really
It does
address
address it, but it's archaic.
there's a lot of outdated that needs some tweaking. No question. And we recognized that when I first came. It was, and we made a few tweaks, but not many, but no comprehensive review. And that's maybe the answer is we get maybe select the ones that are most out of date and address those. But I'll stop.
I mean, does the League of Cities offer a resource that will
Yes.
go through that for us and help us modernize it?
Yes, and that's what I had intended to have them do. Of course, we I don't want to make excuses, but I will, in the sense that we've had several other priorities, and one of them was the fire pension board, which they assisted us with and did a really good job. But we can do the same, and that was the plan of action I had in mind, was to engage the league. There is some cost associated with that, but that shouldn't be formidable. And we might could do it in pieces, like I say.
The Florida Chamber has a Florida Employment Manual that has got every single policy that's required in the state of Florida, and actually has the wording on it. I mean, it's like $125, maybe a little bit more, and I don't know for municipality how much that differs, especially on comp time, maybe.
There are some differences, but I didn't know
I
they
mean,
had a resource.
That's a resource that can be used, since it's through the Florida Chamber, and I think it's $125, and you can get it in a PDF document, and you just have to go in there and change all the city's name. But it is, Randy, you do have this on the our workshop meeting date, and I know you have on here workshop to be determined in 2023, and you have in there that social media policy but also the vehicle take home and
Yeah, that was
non-employed
one of the
passengers.
items.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
there's
are-
several of them. I've been sticking things in my old manual, the ones we needed to address.
Okay, we got a motion on the
Yes,
table, so let's,
And the motion isn't to piecemeal it, it is to have a new handbook.
by the March,
Have something, not finished, but have something to look over by May.
that would be March 20.
Oh,
That's
he,
the third Monday.
he said May.
Oh, you said May. Oh, May, yeah.
Which will make it a priority.
March would be tight.
Right.
Okay, motion, is there a second? Okay, I don't hear a second, so.
Second.
Okay, second by Edmonds, right? Did you say that second?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I'm not opposed to it in theory. And I understand why you want to put a timeline, like, a drop dead date, I'll call it, of May. But I also understand that we have a lot of projects ongoing that pull our staff and our city manager in. I don't know. It's a tough one.
Well,
Different directions,
we had this same discussion 2 years ago, and a lot of things have happened that we've dodged the bullet in those 2 years.
Fair.
Dodge the bullet don't begin to explain the liability this city had because of lack of a policy. Without putting our dirty laundry out there, but I can.
Well, I won't ask any more questions then. Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? And let me, just for the record, let me get the exact date in May. That would be the third Monday, May 15th, 2023. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, did you finish, Molly?
That was Greg, but he had it.
Oh,
That was
Commissioner
his.
Thompson. I'm sorry.
No, sir.
That's it. Okay. The only thing I have is just a report that FMPA is going to send me to the Washington DC. So I'm excited about going, and they're footing the bill, so that's good. And we're going to go to the APPA conference. I guess I'm going. No one else would go with me. And we'll be talking to the legislators and senators about public power.
Driving that cost down?
Oh, yeah, we're going to drive it down. So I'm excited about that and bring back a report to the commission.
Will you be able to take our handout and give it out to whoever you
Yeah.
let them know?
Anything?
Jimmy's going to be like strapping a backpack around DC with our handouts in it.
Yeah, that's all right. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you all. Good meeting.